What a draft weekend. What a draft weekend. Happy Monday to all of you. Thanks for joining us as always. It is very much appreciated. Everything Pat's a New England Patriots podcast. If you want to know my draft grade, I actually released it this morning on the Locked On Patriots podcast with a couple of other topics. So you want to check out that pod as well. And look, it's not a homer take that this draft was practically universally praised. We'll get into that in just a minute or so. But first, Pete Pretorius, he beat the crew, $10 super chat. Thank you, Pete. Coaches get crushed for playing it safe and for reaching. They can't win. WTF. Woodson's pick is better seen as a bet. Risky, maybe, but with the chance he looks genius if it hits. Look, a lot of people talk about reaches. A lot of people talk about that guy shouldn't have been taken. That guy was a risk as we watch the draft. And that's because everybody is reading a mock draft every day leading into the actual real draft. And we watch analysts and pundits, and they talk about an awful lot of players, and they have their own opinions about each guy. And you have to look through every single pick. And if you want a gauge, you almost have to look at every single mock draft and pundit write-up and rankings that were thrown out there. I think mock drafts are a guide for the most part, especially when you read some of the best. I'm not going to lose my mind about any pick, especially 4th through the 7th rounds, because we don't know the true value behind closed doors. Mock drafts are for fun. Mock drafts are not the reality. So thank you, Pete. I wanted to hit that at the top because you sent it early. All right. And by the way, there are a number of people who have written since that Woodson pick that they believe he's a starter, including Dane Brugler. All right, let's look at this universally praised draft class. You know, a lot of people might have been seeing my Twitter feed over the past few days and saying, man, you're way too positive about this draft class. You're being a homer. So let's take myself out of this for a moment. Again, my draft grade is at Locked On Patriots. But let's take myself out of this conversation. Let's even take you out of the conversation for this moment. It's not about how we feel about this draft. Let's look at the objective analysts and experts. Let's look at what the football world is saying about this Patriots draft, and you will see a theme. You'll feel a theme. Dane Brugler, who is well regarded, one of the best in the business. I use his beast write-ups all the time during the podcast that I do and the radio shows that I do. Dane Brugler is one of the best. One of the best. And did you know that Dane Brugler at The Athletic said the Patriots had the best draft class over the weekend? Dane Brugler has the Patriots at number 1 in his rankings. Dane Brugler. That's a big deal. But it wasn't just Dane Brugler. I was watching Mina Kimes' podcast earlier today, and Mina Kimes had the Patriots as the number 1 winner of this draft. But let's not stop there. Ben Solak of ESPN was on Kimes' podcast, and here's what Solak had to say about the first 4 picks of this Patriots draft. Quote, I'm willing to say they're all going to be awesome immediately, unquote. Will Campbell, awesome immediately. TreVeyon Henderson, awesome immediately. Kyle Williams, awesome immediately. Jared Wilson, awesome immediately. So far, Dane Brugler, Mina Kimes, Ben Solak, all love the Patriots draft class. But why stop there? Because I said it was practically universally praised. So let's continue. Bleacher Report gave the Patriots an A+ on their draft. Pro Football Focus. So now we're talking about not only the eye test, the film test with Dane Brugler and others, Mina Kimes, but we're also talking analytically. Pro Football Focus, heavy on the analytics. PFF gave the Patriots an A grade for this draft. Mel Kiper, old school, in between yelling about Shadur Sanders. He took the time out to give the Patriots an A- grade on this draft. Ryan Fowler from the Draft Network, thoroughly impressed by the Patriots draft. Sports Illustrated gave the Patriots an A-. NFL.com, Chad Reuter, gave them a B+. And let's put some context to that. Reuter gave the Patriots draft overall a B+, and he gave their day 1, i.e. Will Campbell, a B-. So really that's about Will Campbell and not the draft, because if he liked Will Campbell more and gave Will Campbell a B or a B plus, then the draft probably gets to an A minus for NFL.com's Chad Reuter. Mike Renner from CBS posted this. He gave the Patriots a firm A grade, arguably the largest single offseason talent increase I've ever seen a franchise have in my 13 years of doing this, not counting adding quarterbacks. I released a Twitter poll after the draft on Saturday. It was simple. What grade would you give this Patriots draft? There were 2,732 votes in this poll. 77.9% of Twitter. Let's think about that. Twitter, the world of negativity, the hellscape that app is at times, if not most of the time. On Twitter, 77.9% of the people on Twitter gave this draft an A grade. 19.8% gave it a B grade. 1.5% of the people gave it a C grade. Shout out to those 41 people. And really a special shout out to the 22 people, the 0.8%, that gave this Patriots draft a D grade. The 30,000-foot view of this draft for the Patriots comes from Renee Bugner, who posted this. Renee compiled 24 evaluations of the draft, and he totaled the team grades, and he sorted the grades by GPA for all 32 teams. He sorted the 24 evaluations by that GPA as well, from left, soft, to right, hard graders on this chart that he had. And the result of taking 24 evaluations of the 2025 NFL draft, the result from Renee Bugner was that the Patriots had the number one draft class, and their GPA was 3.67. So this isn't me. It's not just me talking about this draft and feeling great about this draft. It's not just most of you feeling great about this draft that happened over the weekend. It is practically every single solitary pundit, analyst, writer, podcaster that I have absorbed over the past day or so. This draft on paper was a banger. And now let's address that. We really don't know what this draft class is going to be. We don't know. We don't know how these guys are going to adapt. I really liked the Jalen Polk pick last year, and everything we read about Jalen Polk was that he had a solid character. He was a great locker room guy. He was going to be dependable. He might not be flashy. He might not make these gigantic, huge downfield plays all the time, and he might not be super electric, but he was dependable, and he was going to have 45, 50 catches. I thought Jalen Polk was going to have 45, 50 catches, and we know how his rookie season went. So we have no idea how these guys are going to look when they hit the field and they start playing at the NFL level. We have no clue. But the only thing we can do is look at this team on paper right now. That's all we can do. And if you don't want to talk about what this team looks like on paper, then I guess just come back to the podcast when we get to July and August and September, when they're actually out there on the field being competitive. This is the offseason. And all you can do is evaluate what this team has done on paper. Have they improved? On paper, what was this draft? Was it a great draft? There are no guarantees. We might love this draft today. We might hate it 2 years from now. But on paper right now, you can look across the football world, and this draft is being praised by almost every single person. And here's what else I would say. For the people that might go, oh, well, Nick, we don't know. Again, I agree with you. But what do you think the reaction would be if the Patriots across the football world, if this draft was looked at as a failure on paper? What do you think the reaction would be? What do you think people on the radio and TV would be saying? What do you think people on Twitter would be saying? So we've got to be fair, because we all know if the Patriots drafted a bunch of guys that were seen as quote unquote reaches, and many of the pundits said, how could you draft that guy at that spot? Then a lot of people would be complaining and yelling and screaming. So we've got to be consistent. if the Patriots were ranked 25th by a bunch of experts and pundits and analysts, if the Patriots draft was not well liked, was not well received, we'd be talking about it today. And I'd say the same thing. On paper, the Patriots draft isn't well received, but we won't truly have the feel in the real evaluation of this draft class until 2 or 3 years down the road. We all know that. But on paper, this draft was a freaking banger. On paper, this draft was excellent. On paper, this draft is beloved by so many of the experts that we rely on as we go into the draft to get all the latest information and intel and evaluation. This draft was exactly what Patriots fans should have hoped to develop before we walked into the first round on Thursday night. When I did the pre-draft show right here, live stream, YouTube, on Thursday night, before the first round kicked off, if I told you on Thursday night that this draft was going to unfold the way that it unfolded, man, oh man, I think the vast majority of you would be doing jumping jacks. I don't remember a draft. And of course, it's difficult because you don't write these notes down when you are going through it in real time. But I do not remember a draft in recent memory that was universally praised like this draft has been for the Patriots. It's been a long time. It's been a very long time since you come out of a draft and you're seeing the reaction across the football world from a lot of smart people saying the Patriots were unbelievable on draft weekend. And that's what we're getting. I'm very happy, and I think you should be very happy. Is it all going to work out? We have no idea. But right now on April 28th, Monday afternoon, 3:12 Eastern, it feels really good what the Patriots did over the weekend. And this was the first draft with Vrabel and Wolf and Cowden. And there were questions, and there should have been questions about, what was going to happen here between these three guys. How were they going to be able to work together as a unit? Not much question about Vrabel and Cowden because they know each other, they trust each other, they worked in Tennessee together. But this is a results-based business. And on paper, it looks like this front office and Mike Vrabel aced this test. And I think they have earned the benefit of the doubt as we get ready for camp season. They have created optimism here in New England for the first time in a few years. And I give all of them credit, especially, obviously, beginning with Vrabel. A massive overhaul to this roster. A massive overhaul. Trying to find character fits, culture fits, workers, high football IQ. And I don't know how you can walk away from this draft feeling anything but optimistic, feeling anything but good about what happened. But maybe you could be one of those 65, 66 people in my Twitter poll that gave this draft either a C or a D. And I actually appreciate those people. They're passionate. They have an opinion. I don't agree with the opinion, but I appreciate that they have an opinion. All right, I want to get to Kyle Williams. Picked 69th in this draft. I want to talk about Kyle Williams. I want to talk about his possible impact on this team. I want to talk about the strengths, and I want to talk about the weaknesses regarding Kyle Williams, your new receiver here with the New England Patriots. But before I get to Kyle Williams, help us out. I say it all the time. Click that thumbs up as you're watching on YouTube. More thumbs means more eyeballs. It helps us with that algorithm. So don't forget to like as you watch, as you listen. Listen, it means a ton to us. So don't forget to like this channel, like this episode, like as you watch. Don't forget to throw your comments in. I want your grade. What grade would you give this Patriots draft? Just give me a letter. A, B, C, D. Just give me a letter. It doesn't have to be some, 3-paragraph answer. What grade would you give this draft? And again, we all understand it's on paper. There's no guarantees. Sometimes you might hate a pick. 2 years later, you love the pick. Sometimes you love the pick. 2 years later, you hate the pick. But what is your grade? Throw a comment in. Those comments also help us with the algorithm. And don't forget to subscribe. We've got a new goal. We want to hit 7,000 subscribers by mandatory minicamp. That is June 9th. So we got about a month and a half to hit 7,000 subscribers. It's going to be tough, but we can do it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, click that notify button so you know when we go live with the new podcast, new live stream. And my friends at Spotify and Apple Pods, help us out as well. Rate and review. We love all those comments too. Let's look here quick. Gerard Salvati, B+. All right, Gerard, thank you. Zy Slayer says A-. Let's go. Logo says A. 3D Pool Tile says A-. Kevin Roberts says A-. Jose says A. William Treat gives it an A. Gregory, our guy Gregory, gives it an A. Nightshade SB gives it an A. Keep throwing those grades at us. I want to see what grades you give this draft so far. A lot of happy people in this chat today. All right, Charlie, $10 super chat. Thank you, Charlie, for the 10. Feeling optimistic. The ship is turning, and I think the playoffs are within reach this year. Did you see the I don't know if you've caught it yet, Charlie, but did you see the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with yours truly? Wet Blanket Bedard actually feeling pretty good about this draft and feeling pretty good about this football team. When you've got Bedard feeling somewhat optimistic, you know you've done something. Charlie, to continue, we are the second best team in the division today. Did you see the Steve Smith breakdown of our new wide receiver? Yeah, Steve Smith loves him. Steve Smith believes Kyle Williams is the new Steve Smith. Loves him some Kyle Williams. And we'll talk about Williams in a minute. Derek with a $5 super chat. This year, they look like they played the draft, not the other way around. Can't wait to see Williams and Campbell. A feel for the board, right? A feel for the board. It did feel like they had a lot more control of the board and what they wanted to do this year versus last year. Tyson, A-. Could be an A if we snagged Burden. So not happy with picking Henderson over Luther Burden, but says Henderson's really good. So it's not a hit on Henderson. It's more thought about, hey, you could have had Luther Burden instead of Henderson. Inevitabilis? A. I feel like I'm like 80 years old trying to read Twitter handles right now. Stephen Coakley, A+. So an A+. Wiley 5, I gave it an A-. Been watching since it was the Nick Cattle show at 11 a.m. every day. Keep doing what you do, Nick. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. All right, let's get to Kyle Williams. Keep throwing in your comments. When we stopped the live stream on Friday night after the TreVeyon Henderson pick, towards the end of that live stream, I mentioned, let's see what happens the rest of tonight on Friday night. I did not love picking a running back at 38. I said before this draft that I would not want to pick a running back in the top 50. But I also said on Friday night, let's see how it unfolds because we don't know how far guys are going to fall. And man, oh man, when you look at some of these picks like Farmer and Swinson, nobody thought those guys were going to fall as far as they fell. So you never know. Again, mock drafts are for fun. And I said on Friday night, let's see what happens the rest of tonight. Because if the Patriots come back, and I said at the time, if they go and draft a Jalen Knoll or a Kyle Williams, if they end up with a receiver that we've been talking about and that we like, if they end up with a receiver at 69, then this Henderson pick, for me, would feel better. Because what you did was instead of drafting a wide receiver at 38, you drafted that wide receiver at 69 and you drafted Henderson at 38. So what was the value overall? Who fell to you at 69? So that was my focus as we finished up on that live stream. And the fact that the Patriots picked Kyle Williams at 69, it did make me feel better about Henderson going at 38. Because I really like Kyle Williams. And on my mock draft that I did for Locked On, I had Kyle Williams going to the Patriots in my mock draft. I believe I had him going to the Patriots at 77. So I like Kyle Williams going into this draft. I identified Kyle Williams as a fit for this Patriots team. And so landing Williams at 69 did make me feel better about the Henderson pick at 38 because you did not sacrifice. Now, of course, people are going to love Burden. People are going to love some other wide receivers, and I understand that. I get it. But bringing in Williams at 69, that combination, you don't look at picks in a vacuum, so to speak. You look at the combination of picks. And to walk out of your first 3 picks with Will Campbell, TreVeyon Henderson, and Kyle Williams, that made me feel really good. And I felt better about that Henderson pick, as I said I would on Friday night if the Patriots came back and drafted a wide receiver that I liked. And that's exactly what they did. And by the way, a lot of people were screaming from the mountaintops, Jalen Noel, Jalen Noel, Jalen Noel at 38. And again, to reinforce the idea that mock drafts are just for fun, a lot of people wanted Jalen Noel at 38. He was drafted 41 spots later at 79. So when we watch this draft and we watch these picks go, we really have no idea what the heck is going to happen. We just don't. And the stuff that we read, the numbers next to these guys' names, they're just numbers. Because inevitably, the people behind closed doors in the NFL, they know more than we do. They know how these guys are truly valued. Obviously, Jalen Noel was not valued in the NFL as a top of the second round pick. It doesn't mean he's not going to work out. Puka Nacua wasn't valued. He was picked in the 5th round. That's how you get guys in later rounds that end up developing and playing great football at the next level. But a lot of people were upset that the Patriots drafted Henderson instead of Jalen Noel. They would have had an opportunity to draft both guys if they wanted. They could have drafted Noel at 69. You could have ended up with Henderson and Noel. So in real time on Friday night, it felt like, man, Jalen Noel's going to go off the board and Kyle Williams is going to go off the board. How did they not draft one of those guys? In reality, both guys were there at 69. The Patriots liked Kyle Williams more than they liked Jalen Noel. And I understand why. Kyle Williams is precisely what this Patriots team needs. He brings a lot of different elements to this offense, that wide receiver room, that you need. He is a separator. How long have we talked about the Patriots not having guys that can separate from coverage in that wide receiver room? Way too long. Way too long. This guy can't separate. That guy can't separate. He can't beat man coverage. So let me give you some info on Kyle Williams and what people were saying about Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams, this is Mike Renner from CBS. He posted, Kyle Williams is the best pure separator in the draft class. The best pure separator. Now, Stefon Diggs can separate as long as he's healthy. Obviously, a great addition to the wide receiver room. But before free agency, before Diggs came in, it was a bunch of guys in that room that really can't separate. Pop Douglas can at times, depending on the defense that's being played. But Kyle Williams is the best pure separator in this draft class, according to Mike Renner. Renner continued his post, could not love that pick more for Drake May. Evan Lazar. Williams could be higher on teams' boards than the media boards. This was obviously before the draft. Williams is an explosive 3-level separator. There's that word again, separator. Did you know that Kyle Williams posted an elite 89.9 grade versus man coverage? Almost a 90 grade. Almost a 90 grade versus man coverage. Separator. That's what this wide receiver group needed. Big time. Somebody that can separate. Chris Sims. Now we know Chris Sims, a little up and down in his evaluations. Sometimes you love what he has to say. Sometimes you hate what he has to say. Chris Sims, here's what he posted about Kyle Williams. He had Kyle Williams as his second receiver this year. Now, I don't think anybody else had Kyle Williams that high. I think Brugler had Williams as like his 12th receiver. But Chris Sims had Kyle Williams as his second receiver on the board. And he posted, blown away by the film. Quickest feet in the draft combined with real acceleration. He runs away from people all the time. Patriots and Drake May got a gem. There's that highlight that I'm sure most of you have already seen where Kyle Williams dusts Travis Hunter one-on-one on the outside for a touchdown and then waves goodbye to him. Separation. You now have a receiver that can get separation at the line of scrimmage. You have legitimate speed. I'm not talking about 40-yard dash speed. I'm not talking about how fast Kyle Williams runs when he's wearing shorts and a T-shirt. On the field, you have legitimate speed. Kyle Williams was clocked at almost 22 miles per hour on the field last year, according to Next Gen Stats. Almost 22 miles an hour. So you've got legitimate speed, and you've got somebody that can make plays downfield. They just don't separate, but they also can make a play downfield. That's Kyle Williams. Here's what Dan Brugler had to write about Williams. He posted an outstanding success rate. Kyle Williams' success rate on throws of more than 20 yards last season was 58.3, which is just an outstanding, as Brugler writes. That is an outstanding success rate. 58.3% on throws of more than 20 yards in 2024. Separator, legitimate speed on field, a guy that can make plays downfield. Williams may look like a slot. This is Phil Perry, but he was used primarily on the outside at Washington State. He averaged 17.1 yards per catch last season. Yak ability. Yards after the catch. Lazar wrote that Williams added 8.4 yards after the catch with big play potential on underneath targets. So you can get him the football. You can get him the football about 10 yards, 5 yards, and just let him go to work. You can have him test defenses downfield. These are all things that we've talked about. These are all things that we've talked about that the Patriots need at wide receiver. Outside ability, downfield ability, separation, speed. He checks them all. And he's at a premium position. Again, he might not be the big-bodied X receiver, but he's an X receiver. He played about 75% of the snaps at Washington State. He played on the outside. So he's an outside receiver. Premium position. X wide receiver ability. Positional versatility. He can play inside. He can play outside. If you want to slide him into the slot every once in a while, he can do that. And he's a very, very high character guy, according to everybody. He had a chance to duck out on the bowl game. His head coach was gone. His quarterback was gone. And he decided not to duck out. He played the bowl game. And he was unbelievably productive. 10-plus catches, bunch of yards. But Kyle Williams is not flawless. And I don't want to paint him as a flawless prospect. So let's look at some of his weaknesses. This is our lads. Williams lacks the radius that can get covered up in traffic. Too many focus drops. He has small hands. Needs to tighten up his movement at the top of the route and catch point. Will need to smooth some of the rough edges to his skill set. So he's not the greatest route runner right now. He's had some drop issues when it comes to focus. The hands are small. You wonder about the weather here in New England and how he can combat that. So some legitimate questions. Dane Brugler listed the weaknesses of Kyle Williams. Unassuming size, strength, and body bulk. So again, he's not that big-bodied A.J. Brown outside receiver. He's not that kind of guy. If that's what you think you're getting, that's not what you're getting. Brugler said that at times he can get hung up versus press and outdone physically mid-route. He doesn't have body strength to shake off tacklers. So when he gets hit, he's going to go down. He needs more control with the route running. So again, not polished route running wise. And he's a mediocre blocker. Bigger defenders will discard him. So there are weaknesses to Kyle Williams' game, but that's why you get drafted 69th and not 6th overall. You're going to have weaknesses. He's an unfinished product. You hope that he gets in the room between Josh McDaniels and Todd Downing, that coaching staff that the Patriots have assembled, and Stefon Diggs. You hope that Stefon Diggs puts him right under the wing. Stefon Diggs, one of the best route runners in football, and you hope that Diggs, Downing, and McDaniels, you hope those three guys can help develop collectively Kyle Williams. And he might not be crushing it in the first 2 months of the season. We don't know. But if those guys develop him and Downing and McDaniels and Diggs, if they all help Kyle Williams develop, maybe by the second half of the season, he's doing some things. And anything before that, then you should be extremely happy. Extremely happy. I'm excited. I'm excited about Kyle Williams. I really am. But the Patriots' history, we all have PTSD of all these receivers that have been drafted that haven't worked out. So we all want to see it happen on the field. We all want to see it happen. But I'm excited about Kyle Williams. But that leads us to the wide receiver room. The wide receiver room is congested, folks. Let's count the receivers right now. Count them with me. By the way, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Stefon Diggs, Williams, Hollins, Douglas, Bourne, Polk, Baker, Booty. 8 wide receivers. 8 wide receivers in the wide receiver room right now. And there are others. Those are the guys that would be, fighting for the 53 right now. Diggs, Williams, Hollins, Douglas, Bourne, Polk, Baker, Booty. You also have some other guys that were signed, right, to futures deals. You've got John Giles. You've got Jaquay Jackson. So you have 2 of those receivers. And you have the UDFAs in the camp invites that have been reported. Demir Blankensee from Memphis. Efton Chisholm III from Eastern Washington. Jeremiah Webb from South Alabama. So not only do you have those 8 guys that I mentioned at the top, you also have 5 other receivers that could vie for spots. There's a lot of receivers right now at Gillette Stadium. They're all jumbled up. I mean, you've got 13 receivers right now. All of those names I just mentioned, 13 of them at different levels. Now, some could be cut. Some could be cut today. So keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for receivers to be cut. It's absolutely possible that, some guys get let loose because before you start signing those UDFAs to the 90-man roster, you got to cut people. So it's 100% possible, if not probable, that a receiver could be cut within the next 24 hours. So let's keep an eye out for that. You're likely going to carry 6 or 7 guys, right? You're likely carrying 6 or 7 guys on this 53-man roster. Now, here are the guys that I think are safe. Stefon Diggs is safe. Now, with the injury thing, of course, something could happen, but I think Stefon Diggs is safe. We're going to put him on the list. He could start the season on IR, which makes a difference because that means you could possibly, if you're going to carry 7 guys, you could put Diggs to the IR, which means you could keep all those 8 guys I mentioned at the top. Those other 7 guys just make the team. Diggs starts on IR, and then whoever is not impressing you, you can move on once Diggs comes off IR. But you've got Diggs. Kyle Williams is making the team. You're not drafting him at 69 to release him unless something awful happens. So Kyle Williams is on the team. Mac Hollins is on the team because you signed him. Veteran leadership, great red zone target. He's really the only receiver in the room that is a big-bodied receiver. So Hollins is making it. Those are my safe. Diggs, Williams, and Hollins, for me, are guarantees. So that's 3 spots. So you have 3 to 4 spots left. Pop Douglas, to me, is mostly safe. Now, what's interesting is the Chisholm UDFA. Efton Chisholm III from Eastern Washington. If you've seen any of his highlights, he's a very McDaniels-like receiver. He's got quick feet, ran a great 3-cone, as they say. And so Chisholm might try to press Pop Douglas, but I think Pop is mostly safe, given his track record, what he's done through the first 2 years. I think Pop makes the team. So that's 4. Now I'm going to go likely to unlikely. Most likely to least likely. Left on the list. Kendrick Bourne. I look back at his 2021 with Josh McDaniels. It was his best season in the NFL. So I think Bourne is ahead of the other guys as of right now. Then I've got Jalen Polk. He was a second-round pick last year. I think it's going to be very difficult for the Patriots to cut Jalen Polk after he was drafted in the second round last season. I think they're going to do everything that they can to try to give him another chance to get back on his feet, to get back on the rails. Then I've got Javon Baker. He's behind Polk and Bourne because he couldn't get on the field last year. Some of the stuff he said away from the field. And then I've got Kayshon Boutte. Now, I know people will say, Nick, Kayshon Boutte's the most proven guy out of Polk and Baker. I understand. But there's a reason why. There's a reason why that Kayshon Boutte's name was out there. There's a reason why Kayshon Boutte's name was out there as far as a veteran that could be traded before the draft. That tells me that the Patriots are planning on life without Kayshon Boutte. Mike Reese and others reported that Kayshon Boutte, he was available. They didn't talk about Polk being available or Baker being available. Now, of course, that could be because, again, Boutte actually produced on the field last year. But if Kayshon Boutte was on the block before the draft, I have to believe that he's far from being safe on this roster. Far from it. Absolutely far from it. And then you've got Giles and Jackson, who are going to be battling it out, I think, versus those undrafted free agents and the invites for practice squad spots. You could have a Cinderella. Mike Vrabel loves competition. You could have one of these guys be a Cinderella. Giles or Jackson or Blankensee or Chisholm or Webb. One of those guys might pop. And one of those guys might be. One of those guys might be on this team come September. They're going to have an opportunity. They're in camp. They're going to have an opportunity. And so it's a fascinating group of receivers. But right now, if you put the proverbial gun to my head, Diggs, Williams, Hollins, Pop, Bourne, Polk, and Baker are my 7. Now, Baker could easily be gone. Boutte could stay. They could both be gone. But there's going to be a lot of competition towards the end of that wide receiver roster, right? The guys that are anywhere from 4 to 8 to 9 to 10, there's going to be a big-time competition between those guys at camp. And whoever plays best is going to get the spot. It's as simple as that. It's how it works. Cool Genuine Phil with the $2 super chat. Go Pats. Sending my prayers in the Vancouver attack. Yep. It's awful. It's one of the worst things about social media when you see these attacks and you just see the tragedies and everything. It's rough. It's brutal. Absolutely brutal. Thank you, Cool Genuine Phil, for the 2. So the wide receiver room is congested. They still don't have a bona fide wide receiver 1. I don't think Kyle Williams projects to be a wide receiver 1. He's more of a 2, maybe a 3, but hopefully a 2. Diggs used to be a 1. I don't think he's a 1 anymore. He's going to be a 1 on this team. When he's healthy, he'll be a 1. So I think you look at the depth chart here, you've got Diggs and Hollins probably getting a lot of snaps once Diggs gets back. And then you see how the rest of these guys work out. Kendrick Bourne, is he dealt? He might be a value. But you're going to make some decisions before you get to camp because you have to, because of the 90-man roster. So it's going to be fascinating to see if the Patriots cut bait with any of these guys sooner rather than later, because they could. They could. The likes, those thumbs up, they help us. More thumbs up means more eyeballs for this podcast, for this live stream. I appreciate every single one of you that clicked that thumbs up for me. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to throw comments in. Jake says Hollins isn't going anywhere. I agree. I don't think they signed him so he can be gone. And I think it's more about his veteran presence, his maturity, his professionalism, the job he can do in the red zone. So I don't think Hollins. I think Hollins is on this team. But don't forget to like. Don't forget to throw a comment in. Like many of you are throwing comments in right now. I love the busy chat room. Love it. As long as everybody's respectful to each other. Don't go crazy at each other, okay? It's only football. But don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to subscribe. The goal is 7,000 subscribers. 7,000 subscribers by the time we get to mandatory minicamp, which is June 9th. So we got about 5-6 weeks to get to 7,000. See if we can do it. Let's see if we can get there. Keep our fingers crossed. We didn't hit the last goal. We hit 6,600. We hit that goal before the draft. But let's get to 7,000 by mandatory minicamp. Like, comment, subscribe. That's how we do it. Also, check out the Locked On podcast. Again, my draft grade is out there. If you want to see that, Locked On Patriots on YouTube and all sorts of other platforms. We will be back on Wednesday at 3 p.m. live. We'll see what happens if there's any cuts over the next couple days. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll talk to you soon. Great draft by the Patriots on paper over this weekend. We should be very happy.